would like to introduce today's moderator for the Career One-Stop Tools for Youth webinar. Donald Halton is a supervisory workforce analyst with the Office of Workforce Investment. Please welcome Donald.
Thank you, Samantha, and welcome. Good morning or good afternoon, depending on what part of the country you're in. Very excited to share with you tools for youth within Career One-Stop. In addition to the Career One-Stop webinar that we'll be presenting, we'll have a brief overview from the Division of Youth Services. Maisha Meminger is going to open the webinar with a brief overview of what ETA's Division of Youth Services has to offer. But before we get to that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce our three panelists, Maisha, Tricia, and Julie. So in that order, Maisha, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Good afternoon and good morning, colleagues. My name is Maisha Meminger. I'm an African-American female, and I use the she, her pronouns. And I'm here to talk about the Division of Youth Services and how amazing these tools are for our young adults here at the Department of Labor. Thank you.
Okay. Tricia, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, thanks. Hi, everyone. I'm Tricia Dahlman, and I am one of the managers on the Career One-Stop team. I oversee outreach, marketing, and operations. I've worked on state and national career information products like Career One-Stop during my time in state government, and really excited to be representing the Career One-Stop team with Julie here today. And I'll hand it over to Julie to introduce herself next.
Hi, everyone. It is so exciting to see your names and affiliations rolling up on our screens. Thrilled to have all of you with us today. I'm Julie Remington, content strategist for Career One-Stop. So I develop content for our websites and tools. I create videos, conduct research with groups of users, and I've got a background in career development, as many of you do, and worked in planning and staff training for Minnesota's American Job Centers for many years. And I'll hand it over to Maisha to start talking about the youth program.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Next slide. The Division of Youth Services is under the Employment and Training Administration of the U.S. Department of Labor. Our job is to make sure that we ensure that young adults and younger adults and older youth get into workforce training or education. Many of the young people that we do work with have been disconnected from formal education. They come into a one-stop center or American Job Center, and they're looking for an opportunity to, again, provide a way of life for themselves and their families. Under the Division of Youth Services, we are fortunate to have three arms. We have the Reentry Office, which is working with, interesting enough, youth and adults who are returning citizens coming back from detention or incarceration. We work very closely with the Justice Department to make sure that these persons are engaged back into the community, get jobs, get training, and we work to give competitive grants in that area. Our second arm is the Youth Policy and Performance Team. That's my arm. We take care of the WIOA, or Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, funding from Congress and making sure that each state and local area has sufficient amount of funds to serve young adults ages 14 and 24. Under a formula funded. So every state gets a formula based upon the amount of population they have, and we make sure that that money is spent properly and efficiently. And we also have the Youth Build Office. This is a competitive grant office that funds programs throughout the country, over 200, in which a young adult is able to join this program. They spend half of their time in the classroom and half of their time training. Most of the trainings are building homes in communities that are in need, for families that are in need. And so these are our three arms of the Division of Youth Services. Next slide. We just wanted to share how the funding flows and how this webinar talking about the tools that we use is used. So again, labor receives funding from Congress. And when we come down, we give money to the state, and then the state gives money to local areas. And then we get the money down to those communities that have one-stop centers or American Job Centers. When we talk about these tools today, a lot of these tools are used for free at these American Job Centers or one-stop centers. And they also can be used for any young adult, anywhere in the country. So we wanted to make sure that you saw the flow of funding for the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act for young adults as we flow the funding, again, from Congress all the way down to our career centers throughout the nation. Next slide. Under the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, we have 14 program elements, and I just wanted to share this with you all that many of you guys already work in this field, but some people are new to the field. And our hard work really goes towards making sure our young adults can get any one or multiple of these 14 program elements. And we definitely want to highlight the fact that we want our young adults to know about the myriad of opportunities in workforce for them. So we provide tutoring, anywhere from tutoring, leadership development opportunities. And next slide, please. Mentoring, and my favorite, I think the most important one we provide, I'm a little biased, is supportive services. This allows our funding to be used to support our young adults in getting jobs such as bus tokens, if they need eyeglasses, licenses, birth certificates, any of those things that help a young adult that may have a barrier to employment get their next step to get that employment. So that's my favorite one. And we also talk about entrepreneurship skills and other opportunities for young adults to connect to the workforce. So these are our 14 program elements. Next slide. If you're interested in learning more about what we do, this is our community of practice, youth.workforcegps.org. And also, I'm going to put in the chat our email address for you all. I apologize, I did not have that available to you all on this slide, but I can absolutely do that right now. And if you have any questions about the youth workforce system here at the U.S. Department of Labor, please let us know, and we would be happy to talk to you more about the opportunities that we have for our young adults. But the most exciting opportunity we have is this beautiful tool that we're about to share with you. And it's, guess what, y'all? It's free. You don't have to buy it. So I'm going to pass it over to our presenter to share us more about our tools. Thank you.
Thanks, Maisha. That was a fantastic and so clear description of what the youth program does and how the funding flows. I can tell you're very experienced at doing this. Our agenda for today, we're going to start with a brief introduction of the CareerOneStop website, and that is our main portal. Then we'll spend most of our time exploring our website for youth and young adults, and that's called Get My Future. We're going to answer all of your questions at the end of the webinar, so please do post your questions in the Q&A there on your Zoom panel. And we want to make sure you can find our reference documents after this webinar. So if you check your chat, you should see Samantha has placed, I think, 2 files there. One is a list of links for all the content that we'll cover today, and the other is a PowerPoint of this presentation, and we'll use screenshots in lieu of the live website. So you can reference that or adapt it for workshops or classes as you like. And with that, let's take a look at CareerOneStop. There's really 3 essential facts to know about the site. It's a comprehensive website with career exploration, training, and education information, and job search resources. So this is a national site. We provide up-to-date data and resources for all 50 states and U.S. territories. Second important point, it is trustworthy. We're sponsored by the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, and so we only use authoritative data and reliable resources. The third key point, it's free. There's no costs. We now have an account system, but your users are not required to register or create an account to use the site. So it's very easy to get into the site. And with that, Samantha, I want to let you know we're going to stop screen sharing now, and we're going to move out to the live site to start our tour. So CareerOneStop, as I noted, is our main portal. It's got a lot of great resources for every user. We've got our main navigation sections that are indicated in that blue bar across the top. So we start with exploring careers, and then to find training, job search tools and resources are available on that third link, and then find local help. We offer a lot of local finder tools for American Job Centers, community colleges, libraries, and others. Toolkit is the collection point for all of our data tools on the site. You can find those in that one spot. And then resources for takes you out to our specialty audience sites. And those are the same as what you see listed on those blue buttons in the middle of the page. So we have some specialty sites and information for 55 plus workers, for military and veterans, certainly for young adults, workers with a criminal conviction, and others. So you can go out and explore those when you have time. But from here, we're going to select that resources for tab, and we're going to go right out to Get My Future. So Get My Future is where we'll spend most of our time today. And this is, again, our website for people ages 14 to 24 who may have barriers to education and employment. You'll notice that this design looks pretty different from that CareerOneStop site. And the reason is that we met with youth and young adults and teachers and employment program staff and others as we developed this site, and we heard unanimously, don't use models. We want real people. We want this site to represent us. So that's what we used. We also heard about the importance of success stories and encouragement to overcome some very significant barriers. So throughout the website, you will see videos, stories, quotes of real people discussing how they dealt with barriers and created success in their own lives. Thanks for all that great feedback. This site also addresses the needs of a first-time job search or early career development. So we're going to use also here a simpler level of language and also in the way we present our data. So up right at the top, you'll notice that the main navigation follows that same category structure as CareerOneStop. We get into exploring your career options and assessments. We get into education, employment, and then finding support for any barriers and resources you might need to overcome those, and then our toolkit. Right above that, you'll see that login with a little person. That's where you can sign in to a user account. If you choose to have one, you can click off there and you can actually create your account there as well. The globe with Espanol, with one click there, you can translate the entire site into Spanish. And then the site search is just below, and that's a quick way to get out and do a search for anything you might want to find in particular on the site. So for a closer look at Get My Future, Tricia will walk us through the first section.
Thanks, Julie. So yes, we're gonna, as Julie mentioned, we're gonna move from left to right across that top navigation on Get My Future today. So we'll start with Explore Careers. This section, and each of our sections actually has a success story video, just to really, again, kind of demonstrate that real life storytelling on this site. And so the success story video in Explore Careers tells Alex's story of working with a youth program to turn his interests into career exploration opportunities. The content in this section is listed in the left navigation. So it includes things like types of career assessments, ways to learn about careers, setting career goals, and then ways to advance in a career. So I want to start us off today in this section by looking at our most popular career assessment first, which is our interest assessment. So again, I could link to this directly within this section, or I could use that toolkit navigation bar to find this tool as well. We love starting with the interest assessment because it tends to fit people of all ages, and it's especially good starting point for youth and young adults who may not have a lot of work experience. It's really easy, or tends to be easier for people to talk about what they're interested in doing as well. There's 30 questions, and it's really quick to take, about 10 to 12 minutes. Users select an answer based on their level of interest in each activity. So they select if they're like it or dislike it. It's easy to go back and change answers as well. Like all of our assessment tools, this renders well for mobile device use and is keyboard accessible for youth who use assistive technology. The interest assessment uses the Holland Code system, which is a reliable assessment system that's very well regarded in the field and it's been validated with diverse audiences around the US and internationally. If you're familiar with RIASEC scores, RIASEC, that's the same system that this is using. And once a user completes all 30 questions, they'll get their results. And here's what those look like. On the results page, the first thing you're going to see in the middle is the number of careers that match your interests. So here I'm seeing 165 careers. And that will vary, obviously, based on my responses. For every result, I see the match level, so best, great, or good. And then the career title. The career title is a link out to an occupation profile with lots of great information about the career, and we'll actually explore the profile in a little bit. The next column shows the national job outlook, then the national median hourly wage, and then the last column is the typical education level required to enter that job or that field. I can quickly scan my matches in this results format and compare the occupations in my set of results. Or I do also have the option at the top to sort by any of these columns. So for example, if I wanted to sort my list to show those occupations with the strongest job outlook, I could do outlook high to low, for example. If this list of results is just too big for me to kind of really understand what's in here, I have options on the left-hand side of the page to filter those results. So first I get the option to filter by experience or education needed. So if I know I only want to see careers that require a certain level or no or little preparation, I can select those options. And that'll narrow down my list. These sorting and filter options apply to just about all CareerOneStop tools, so they're really helpful to know about ways that you can customize your views of the data that you get. A couple other features on all of our tools, if I don't understand my results or I want to know a little bit more about where the data comes from, there's a About This Data box on most of our tools, and that'll link out to a help page, again, with more information about what I can do with these results and where it comes from. At the bottom of my results list, I can download my results in different formats. So in Excel, PDF, Word, or rich text format are my options. And then moving back up to the top of the page, I have some options to print this list of results, email it to someone. So if you wanted someone to email the results that they got to you, if that would be helpful, you can do that. Or this floppy disk icon will save it into your account. If you don't have an account already, that'll help you create one. It'll walk you through the steps to create one. Or if you already are logged in, it'll save that page. Again, those are the features that are common to all of our pages and tools throughout CareerOneStop. One other piece of information I want to call your attention to in this tool is up in the upper left-hand corner. We do have this Your Interest box, and I'll show you if you click on that. This includes your individual scores for each of the RIASEC areas. And if you click on below, you can find out a little bit more information about each of those interests as well. Some people have very clear high and low categories, while others show curiosity around several interest streams. We typically focus on the strongest 2 or 3 interests to better understand the types of work that we want to do. But you can encourage youth to use these statements as ways to talk about themselves in a job interview. That can be helpful. One question you might run into when you're working with youth is if the person disagrees with their results and maybe it just doesn't describe them accurately, they can always go back to their list. Their results are their individual scores for each activity are saved, so they can go back and make some changes and then redo their results. So that is an easy thing for them to do. That's our interest assessment. And now we want to show you one more career assessment in our toolkit, and that's our work values matcher. So we're excited to have the work values matcher in our list of career assessments because aligning values to work can really help us feel motivated and engaged in our work, give us a sense of purpose, and increase our job satisfaction. And so this tool can help you choose a career that matches their values and identify employers that share similar values. So let's take a look at it. This tool is based on the work values content on ONET and uses our card sort method to rank 20 statements for their level of importance to you, from most to least important. The statements describe qualities or traits of a job or workplace. So for example, the card that is displaying right now is I use my talents and abilities. For example, so you would ask yourself how important is it to me to use my talents and abilities on the job? For me, I'm gonna say that that's most important. And so my options here are to drag that card into that column, and then the next card will display. I can click on the column title to move it into that column. Or if I want to make any changes, I could drag the card from column to column. I do also have the option in the right-hand corner to click the X to remove the card completely, and it'll just go back on the stack. And that functionality is available to keyboard users as well. So the magic of this tool really happens when you're only allowed to rate 4 of the statements as most important. You really have to decide which conditions or features of work are most important to you. And so that's really where the decision making happens. This assessment often takes a little bit more time than compared to the interest assessment, for example, but you often find it engaging to make those decisions. So once I've placed all my cards, I would get a button to see my results, and here's what they look like. So my results are a chart, again, that gives my score for each of the work values that are listed. The universal work values referenced in this tool are helping others, career advancement, working independently, gaining recognition, having good work conditions, and having support in the work environment. So again, that chart shows me which are most and least important to me based on how I rated the cards. And then below gives me a short description of each of those work values with a link to go deeper if I want more information. And I'll show you what that page looks like. So for achievement, here are the details and a detailed description. We were really sticklers in this tool to emphasize how values relate to a specific workplace more than a career choice. So values really show up in organizational culture. I can work the same occupation at different companies and find dramatically different values that directly impact my job satisfaction. So we really wanted to convey that to our youth and young adults. So here we're coaching the user in how to recognize whether an employer or a job is likely to share the values that they have and ways that they can learn about the company's values. We suggest this be done by asking questions that are listed here, either at informational or networking meetings, job interviews, or when they're doing research on a website. But we do know that people always want to see how careers are related. So this blue button does show me the list of careers that highlight the value of the work value I'm looking at. So for example, for achievement, if I click that blue button, now I'm seeing the list of careers. We know that values do influence the occupational level detail too. For example, healthcare occupations and teachers typically value helping others more than occupations that promote competition or recognition, for example. So we do have this list, and it is broken down into levels of education or experience. And you can open those headings to see those groups of occupations. Like the interest assessment, there's a link directly to the occupation profile. So as they're kind of looking at what might be of interest, they could click on that link to see more details about it. So let's go ahead and look at that Get My Future occupation profile now so you can see what that looks like. So here, for the example today, I either clicked on or searched for the profile for detectives and criminal investigators, and the location I selected was Colorado. In our location boxes, you do have the option of putting a state, but you could also put a city or a zip code in and search that way as well. So our occupation profile is really a powerhouse of information about occupation. It really relies on data from ONET, the Occupational Information Network, and BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. We have about 900 different occupations profile. And if you are familiar with the CareerOneStop occupation profile, you might notice as we're scrolling through today that the Get My Future profile is more visual format than the others, and a little less data is presented. And that's intentional for exactly the same reasons Julie outlined the differences we made when creating the Get My Future website. So the profiles really start with the basics. What do you do on the job? What are the interests of people? Relating it back if they've taken the interest assessment, or they could link out to do that. We give some common alternative titles. They might know this job from a different title. And then we have a career video, and career videos have been popular with youth and young adults, as you can imagine. We produced these videos over the last few years, so they really do have updated tools and technology used on the job. They're about 90 seconds long. So they're helpful, especially if you haven't had a lot of exposure to different work environments. It's just a really good chance to see what the career looks like. We do have, outside of the occupation profile, we have a video library link in our footer if you just want to look at our video library, and Julie will point that out a little bit later. As I scroll down, I can also see things like typical wages, again in that visual format. I can learn about employment outlook. Are there going to be jobs? And I'll just point out two things in this card. So it gives me a general, looks like there's going to be likely to be job opportunities in the future. On cards where there's more information, there's a gray box that I can link out to. So for example, this one, if I wanted to go see the current job openings for detectives and criminal investigators in Colorado, that would take me right out there so I could see job openings. And if I was ever in a card where I wanted some more details, I could click on the question mark. And again, it'll go into what does this information tell me and where does it come from? As I scroll down, the other cards in this profile are how much education you need and what you might do on the day. So again, a good overview of the occupation in details. So these are great. Our profiles are great for looking into specific occupations, but if you have youth that have a general interest and not a specific idea about what they want to do, career clusters can be really helpful. And I'm going to pass it over to Julie to look into those next.
Thanks, Tricia. So career clusters, many of you are going to be familiar with, because I've seen some of you folks are from two-year college systems or K-12 systems. And that's really where that career and technical education-based career cluster system really lands. But they're so terrific for anyone who's just kind of got that really broad idea of, you know, I'm interested in technology. I'm interested in the arts. I love the world of food, or I'm really a STEM person, or, you know, human services is so important to my value system. So you can start with that really broad area of interest, and then these career cluster videos are going to help you drill down and get a really clearer understanding. So we have 2 videos for each of these clusters. The first one, you can learn about terminology. What are trends? What are special features of work that happens in that cluster? What are industries? So here we're highlighting the business management and administration cluster. So I can learn about those kinds of features in business administration. Then that second video is going to help me dive right in and start to name specific occupations that I might want to explore in that cluster. So there can really be a helpful way to frame building credentials and experience. You know, kind of, we used to talk about career laddering, but really that notion or scaffolding that you're building and developing in one area and can kind of move within it for career advancement. So with that, we're wrapping up our career exploration section. We're going to move over to education. So in this section, we're describing a variety of post-secondary options to expand the ways your youth participants might see their prospects. And is a useful graph that shows the financial impact of completing higher education of some kind. And state certificate programs, we cover the basics about 2- and 4-year college. And then we also have a graph that can be really helpful to show the financial value to completing higher education. That's on that, is education worth it, that last tab there. So the video that you see here featured is Lonnie's story, and he describes how getting an education opened up a whole new world for him and his family members. So there are a few tools that we mentioned section we think are really useful for your participants. The first one is the local training finder. We built this tool to help find training programs anywhere in the United States. You can look up programs by name or by school, a college major, in any area of interest. So for example, today I used web design in the Seattle area. And so the results show there are about 340 programs, and that's going to take me anywhere from short-term certificate programs to 2-year degrees or all the way to graduate school, because web design is one of those fields with so many options. So here in the first column of my results, I can select the school name. That will take me out to the school's website where I can explore admissions and financial aid. If I need to find my academic department, that second column program name will give me the language that school uses. And you know from this, they really differ in what they call things, so it's helpful to have that reference. The third column is the program length, and then the number of graduates in the last year from that particular program. Over on the left, I've got my filter options, so I can choose a specific occupation, program name. And I think for a lot of our participants, by the length of the program is so important. So for example, I'm working with someone who really needs less than a year. I've got a WIOA funding perhaps. So if I want to see certificate programs of less than a year, I just select that filter and my options will narrow down to just those. This school and program information comes from the U.S. Department of Education, IPEDS, their integrated post-secondary education data system. So they only include schools that do receive federal funding. That data is updated every year. We want to let you know, breaking news, exciting development. In the next couple of months, we will be adding every state's reported WIOA-approved programs as well. So you will be able to look up those programs in your local area here and find information on those providers and on the program details. We're celebrating too. That's how you can find a program. Oh, wow. Glad to know that's going to be helpful to you. Let's look at a tool that's going to help your participants pay for school. The Scholarship Finder is an important tool for youth applying to college. This is something that the CareerOneStop puts together. We have over 9,000 scholarships fellowships, grants. These are all vetted. These are all confirmed as genuine. There's no ads anywhere on our site, but I find that especially annoying with scholarship sites. So we license most of this data from a company called Gale Group, and that's part of Cengage Learning. So in addition, some scholarship providers contact CareerOneStop directly, and so those we vet directly.
Julie, can I jump in here one thing about this
Please do,
wonderful
Maisha.
search? I just wanted to just compliment this search. We are the only federal agency that has this search. I don't know if you guys all know that, but actually Department of Education will actually send people back to our site because we have a comprehensive list of scholarships that people don't have to pay for, like you're emphasizing. It's not predatory. A lot of times our students are looking for money and they are themselves in need. And a lot of these scholarship searches tend to be predatory, have a lot of commercial and ads. And I just want to compliment the team on this amazing tool that I recommend to students around the entire country. I use it all the time. So I just want to jump in here, Julie, and give kudos to this section of the site because it's absolutely amazing.
That's just terrific to hear. Thanks, Maisha. I appreciate it. And, we're really glad it's as useful as you're finding it. So on that award name on the results, I can read a little description. There's my link that'll take me out to a deeper description of this award. Next, I find out about the level of study it applies to. So if I'm going for an associate's degree, I'm going to want those options that relate to that. The award type and the amount, and then the deadline. And what you'll notice if you come back to this is that we do automatically move the current deadline scholarships up to the current deadline scholarships are always up at the top. So you can use those filters on the left to narrow down this rather massive list. You can choose by level of study, your home state, where you're coming from, or the state you plan to study in, or different affiliations that you're involved in. Or you can enter a keyword to search. For example, you can enter a major and see if there's specific scholarships related to what you want to study. So let's say I want to learn more. I can choose the name of a scholarship, and then I'm going to come to a detail page. So here we had searched for sports-related scholarships. And we found this Steve Mason Sports Media Scholarship. Sounds great. So I'm finding out about the sponsor on this page, the contact information. Am I eligible? Eligibility criteria, how to apply. And so students will actually complete those scholarship applications on that sponsor's website, not on CareerOneStop. So I want to flag for you, it can be helpful to check the organization's website and read about their privacy and data sharing policies before they share any personal information, to Maisha's point about predatory scholarships. And so again, these are vetted, but there's different policies based on the organization. One other tool unique to CareerOneStop we want to have in your toolkit, that is the certification finder. So these can be a really accessible way to help youth qualify for a job, get some advancement. A certification, just as a clarification, that is the credential that demonstrates you have a specific skill or knowledge. And some examples, CPR, that is the biggest certification in the country. That is very, very popular for a lot of different work settings. You might get a certification in a cybersecurity software, for example, or showing that you have the knowledge to complete an engine repair task. So these are very granular, they're specific. And I just want to note, so these require you to pass a test. They're sponsored by a professional association or a company. These get confused with certificates a lot, and those are earned through completing a college program. where you're training for a career like wind turbine technician. And, anyway, so just want to make sure you got that clarification. The Cert Finder lets you search by an occupation, an industry, technology name, like, certification for Microsoft Office or whatever software you might want to focus your participants in. So here we searched for phlebotomists and found 17 certifications. So I've got the cert name that will link me out to lots of great details. Then the organization that sponsors it and the type. There are 5 types of certs. They're ranging from more entry level to more advanced. And then you're going to notice there's some little icons by the name of some of these certifications. Those are going to indicate different affiliations that accredit that certification, like different industry associations, that type of thing. But the chili pepper is a unique animal, and that is an in-demand indicator. What does that mean? It's frequently mentioned in online job postings. So CareerOneStop does that analysis. In fact, we're doing it right now and updating our chili pepper analysis. So we cull through millions of job postings and see how many times has this certification been mentioned. And if it meets a threshold, we put a chili pepper on it. I've got my filter options. I can select just to show me the in-demand, those chili pepper certifications, or narrow by industry, and so on. For more information, I'm going to select that name and go right out to a detail page. This is a phlebotomy technician certification. So I get more description. Do I need a prerequisite? Do I need to get continuing education to maintain this? What kind of exam will I be required to take? And then go out right to that certifying organization. So I want to flag, this is referenced in that list of URLs that you can find through the chat link. But this is in CareerOneStop's toolkit. You won't find it on Get My Future, but it is helpful, we think, to your folks. So want to mention it. Last piece in the education section is apprenticeships. This can be a really important path to a successful career for our youth and young adults, particularly for non-traditional career opportunities, but more and more occupations are apprenticeable. So we've got a brief description of what is that apprenticeship, and then we link out to that authoritative apprenticeship.gov resource. All right, I'm handing it over to Tricia for the next section.
Thanks, Julie. And I think I saw a lot of questions come through because scholarship was so so popular. I just want to mention that all of the tools that we're looking, except for Certification Finder, which Julie just mentioned, you can get from the toolkit dropdown. So if you want just a direct link out there, all of those tools we look at today are in there. Okay, so then moving along that navigation again, we're going to stop at the employment section for job search information. A lot of great content here to prepare you for a successful job search. And the video on this page highlights several young adult voices on specific pieces of job search that they worked on. So a great video as well to talk about where people have had success. Content areas in this section in the left navigation again cover where would I find job openings, gathering my work documents, getting experience, tackling job applications and resumes, and then preparing for an interview. We're going to dig in this section by looking at one of the content pages first, and that is our ideas for first jobs. So the reality is some youth and young adults need a job right away, and it can be possibly the first time they're looking for a job, or they might not have a lot of experience yet. So this content page is a collection of job titles that youth and young adults could likely get without previous experience or special training. So again, just to generate some ideas. It's organized by type of job. So categories are food service, retail, jobs that keep you on the move, outdoor jobs, or programs specifically for jobs and training. The links in these sections go out to our occupation profile again to learn more to see if that would be of interest. From there, they could use that employment card that we looked at to link out to actual job openings. So, but it will kind of take that intermediate step to just learn more about the occupation first. Another content page we wanted to show you was our Get Work Experience page. So just like some youth and young adults need a job right in that way, others are more interested in adding experiences to their resume first. Or they might not be having success finding the job they want, so they might be looking at ways to gain experience, again, for their resume to prepare for a job. So this includes a lot of different opportunities like volunteer work, internships, job shadowing, gig work, part-time jobs, etc. And really, what is that about? Kind of an overview of that opportunity, and then concrete steps to get started. So really, again, a good reference point if anyone is looking to get work experience. So one of the tools in this section we wanted to point out is a little bit newer to our site. It's our practice job application. And it walks you through the common questions and information required on most job applications. It's an opportunity to gather all that information in one place before you go out to do it online or at an employer's location where sometimes it can be timed. So it's good to have this to practice, but also, again, be able to take that information with you once you've gathered it. There are 7 screens of information that kind of look like this that walk you through the common questions. It goes through personal contact information that this screen shows, a little bit about eligibility questions, education experience, training, military service. It'll have you go through your employment history and reference information, any schedule preferences, and then there is a section on criminal history as well. The tool does give some tips along the way, like when there's a question about salary requirements, it'll link out to our salary finder tool where they could do some research on typical salaries, and also some tips for answering questions about criminal history. So we know some people struggle with how to answer that, so we give some advice on that as well, and also some examples of what might be asked. So the information you enter is saved as you're working on the form, but the tool doesn't save this personal information after you leave. So this is a little different than other tools we have, so good to point out if you're using it with anyone. When you close the page, all of your personal information is deleted. You can print or download, and it'll prompt you to do that before on the last screen. So that, again, you could take that to when you needed to fill it out for an actual application. So definitely wanted to point that one out because we've heard it can be really helpful to do that practice. One more content page I want to have us look at is our resume information. So many of you, I'm sure, assist youth in writing a resume or revising a resume to target a new job. And so this is, again, possibly a handy reference to use. It walks through the different sections of a resume and information that would be included in each of those sections. And it does include a sample resume in English as well as Spanish. So we intentionally, again, kept this page really simple and easy to digest. But if it's ever too simplistic for anyone you're working with, I just want to mention that there is always more detailed information on the CareerOneStop website. So, for example, on CareerOneStop, there's a step-by-step resume guide that really goes into more detail for each of the sections of the resume and includes additional resume samples in different industries. So, again, you'll have to gauge it on who you're working with, but both of those resources can be useful. And then obviously we couldn't have an employment section without talking about our job finder tool. So Job Finder is always our most popular tool in this section to search for jobs, or some people use it too to assess what job demand looks like in their area for careers that they're interested in. So in our example today, I put in landscaping and groundskeeping workers in Phoenix, Arizona. Before we look at the results though, I'll just mention that our job posting data is from 3 sources. So the default is always the National Labor Exchange. That's going to be the most comprehensive feed that includes your state job bank data, as well as openings that are sent directly from employers. You can also search for feeds for Indeed and ZipRecruiter, but I just want to mention, because this is going to be a change coming in the next month, we're no longer in February going to be able to display the Indeed. So we'll go down to 2 sources. So you have a little advanced information since we're talking about it today. And job posting information is updated daily on our site. So those sources that we do have, send it to us daily. So it's always going to be refreshed when you come and look at it. So again, for the example that I put in, if I put my keywords in and hit see jobs, here is an example of what those results look like. So again, I see my results in that table format. I see that there's 58 jobs for landscaping and groundskeepers working in Phoenix. I can see the job title right away, the company that's posted it, and if that company is a federal contractor, there'll be that little icon there, the location, and then the date it was posted. And I can sort by any of those columns, or again, I have those filter options on the left. Now, for our National Labor Exchange feed, so again, the one that's the default, that's one that has this option to filter by remote jobs. This was something that we added right after the pandemic, when the interest in working remotely was very high and people were kind of demanding that. Like, that's a really important filter for us to be able to sort filter jobs by. So it includes jobs that include at least one keyword, like virtual or work from home or telecommute. So we know that employers kind of describe their job in different ways. So even though that filter's there, I would just encourage people to really make sure they're reading the description, so it makes sure it matches their expectation. But that's just a helpful filter that's available on this default feed. On the left-hand side is where I can change that source. So again, if I wanted to change to Indeed or ZipRecruiter, I could do that from this dropdown. And when I find a job that I'm interested in learning more about, I would click on the title and see a detailed page. Again, every employer is a little different in how they describe their position, but some of them will include job responsibilities and some qualifications, like this one does. Job seekers don't apply for the position on CareerOneStop. So we have these apply buttons at the top and the bottom of the page, where they will be directed out to the state job bank or the employer who's listing that position. So that is our job finder. And one last tool I want to show you in this section is our business finder. It's just such a great tool. We wanted to make sure you're aware of it. The business finder includes contact information for more than 12 million employers. So we license this data from a third party called Data Axle. It's not a list like the job finder we were looking at just now of employers with open positions, but there's so many great uses for this information. You can identify employers for targeted job search. You could do find employers to do informational interviews or networking with, or you might yourself be putting like a job fair panel or presentation panel together and need to find employers in your local area in specific industries or hiring specific occupations. So it's really just a versatile tool. You just go ahead and enter a keyword and a location. Here I put logistics in San Diego, California in, and we found 333 businesses with related to that keyword. So again, I can see really quickly the name, the description of that business, the industry that they're in, how many employees they have. So is it a small or large employer? And then the distance from the location I put. That's a little helpful if I've put a zip code in to see how far away it is from my location. I have those same filter options, and we won't do it today, but if I were to click on the employer name, I'd get a detailed screen with a little bit more information, including if they have a key contact and website address. Okay, with that, I'll pass it again back to Julie.
All right. We're going to cover our find support section. In this section, there are resources for circumstances that may present barriers. For example, for youth who've aged out of the foster care system, we'll link you out to special programs for housing and financial aid. Or for young parents, we link you out to childcare and benefits programs. Or for people who are unbanked, there's banking and credit information and tips. So a lot of good resources there. Gabby is featured in this section's video, and she describes some tough times she had and how mentoring helped her build confidence and a vision for her future. We have a couple tools we think you might find especially useful from this section. And the first one of those is our youth program finder. So this is where we list youth employment programs by location. I searched Mississippi and found 16 programs listed in that state. The name of the organization does link right out to their website, so you can check out next the program's location. Does this look like it's in a good spot for me to be able to get to? Contact information, how to reach out to them for learning what they might offer in specific. So this finder may be how some participants find your programs in your states, but it can also be helpful for participants in your programs who might be relocating. So you can help them find services in a new location. So for sure, you all are going to be looking up your programs and seeing if you're in our database, and we hope you do. So if you do, and see that there's missing information, incorrect, or your program isn't listed, please do let us know. And use that Contact Us link down in the footer. Right down at the bottom, info@CareerOneStop.org. We love to get emails. We respond to every email. We're a small team and we share information frequently. So we will make those corrections, we'll make the edits, and we also welcome any of your suggestions or questions through that Contact Us link. So for those of you who've noted in the Q&A, how do I make a change or a correction? That's how to do it. Now from here, I can use that navigation on the left, and that will take me to two other finder tools in this grouping. So if I scroll up, I'll find the American Job Center Finder. If I go to that, I'll be able to find all the AJCs in the United States. Or I could select the Reentry Program Finder, and I'll go out to this tool. This is a listing of programs for justice-involved youth and young adults. They offer reentry assistance of different kinds. It might include job search, career planning, job training, wraparound services. So some of these organizations, you'll note, serve just exclusively youth and young adults, and then others serve a broader age range. This does include AJCs as well. So now I'm going to scroll to the bottom of the page because we want you to know about our footer. It has handy access on that Explore and Find, that column to the left. Those are all the sections that we reviewed today. And at the bottom, there's a link to the video library. So if your participants love videos, go here. You can get access to the career videos that we saw in the occupation profile. We've got career cluster videos that we described, and we also have skill and ability videos. So those can be really helpful. Our sites, that column will take you out to any of the other sites in the CareerOneStop suite. Help has FAQs. You can find background on our data sources. We've had a lot of questions about ONET, and yes, we absolutely use ONET on a number of our tools, ONET data. You can learn more there. Under For Developers, we offer data downloads and our web APIs. So if you want to use our data sets and integrate them into your website, you can do that. Take a look at our web APIs for instructions. In the News Center, you can check out our blog, you can subscribe to the blog or the newsletter. And we've had some questions about outreach materials. Yes, we have outreach materials on Get My Future and other parts of CareerOneStop. Get My Future, we have posters, we have brochures, we have them in English, we have them in Spanish. So you can absolutely go out there and we will send them to you. From the user accounts heading, that's where you can learn about how to create an account. So let's take a look at that account. It's a very quick process. We do not share or sell any personal data. We'll underline that again. Here we're on the profile page, and this is where you can choose a career and a location, and then that will be applied to your searches on the site. You can also choose to get recommendations for the best resources on the site for your needs. Once again, accounts are an optional feature. You don't need an account to use anything on CareerOneStop, but it does allow you to save. So for questions about saving your assessment results, job searches, program listings, this is how you do it. You do need an account to be able to make that save and retrieve those. The last thing we want to mention is a guide we developed for teachers and employment program staff, counselors, and so on. And that is at the end of this blue bar, the user guide. Back on the Get My Future homepage, the user guide here. What do you have here? We've got tabs for the 3 major content sections. So if you wanted just kind of a quick highlights of what you find in Explore Careers, Education, and Employment, you can find that here. Next, we collected all the worksheets and checklists for you to download or print for workshops or classes. Those are in English and in Spanish. And then that last tab will take you to a page with all of our success story videos on the site. So if you want to show them again in classes or workshops, they're kind of collected there, thinking that would be easier for you. With that, that wraps up our presentation on Get My Future. What a great audience you've been, so participative. We really appreciate that. And Dawn is going to moderate as we get to all of our questions and give you answers. But first, I'm going to hand it over to Samantha to launch a very short survey. Thank you so much. The quick survey is going to make sure we're meeting your accessibility needs.
Thanks, Julie. While we get those responses in, please again feel free to put questions in the Q&A, and we do appreciate any feedback with this poll. We'll hand it over to Dawn and Julie.
All right, Samantha, thank you. Maisha, Tricia, and Julie, thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. Looking at the emojis flying up the screen, I think that's equivalent of a standing ovation, so kudos to you. We do have a very hard stop at 2:30, so I want to jump to as many questions as we can possibly get. Before we start with the questions, I just want to make 2 observations. There were a number of questions about language. In the top right part of the screen, there's an Espanol tag. You click on that, the entire website turns Spanish speaking. or in Spanish text, sorry. So it's a toggle. You can click on Espanol, it'll turn into Spanish, and then it'll click back to English if you click the toggle off. The second thing is in the lower right corner of the screen, there's this funny looking blue circle with a white box and what looks like a microphone. That is our chat bot. It's a tool like any other chat bot. You can ask questions if you need to find something quickly. Go ahead and type your search in there, and the chat bot should be able to show you how to get there. So I just wanted to point out those two things. So let me jump to the questions. And Maisha, the first question I've got is for you. It's from Kathleen Clark, and she has questions about birth certificates in her county. I think that might be better handled between you and her
Sure.
offline via emails, but if you want to address it real quickly, go ahead.
So basically with supportive service, when a young adult enrolls into our American Job Center or any of our workforce funded programs for young adults, we provide all 14 of those program elements. So if a young adult comes in and they are in need of a birth certificate, this has been misplaced, we do support them in making sure that they can acquire that birth certificate. And if they don't have funds to pay for it, we will do so out of a pot of money to make sure that they have it, because they need that in order to get a job. So we do help with providing, again, elimination of barriers to getting our young adults to into employment. So I'm going to have Samantha, because I can't actually put anything in the chat, but I'm going to have Samantha share our email address with you, with everybody here in the chat for you all. And it's youth.services@dol.gov. If you have any questions in particular regarding the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act or how we actually do our programming on the ground level, we would be happy to help you.
All right. Thank you, Maisha. Next question I can answer. CareerOneStop can be used by students, instructors. CareerOneStop can be used by anyone at any time. There's no limit on where you can go within the website. There was also a question about, does a registered apprentice have to use CareerOneStop? The answer to that question is no, they don't. DOL does not require that. Okay, real quick, there's contact information is up on the screen. If you would like to contact Maisha, Patricia, or Julie directly with any questions about what we saw today on the webinar. Okay, this is a good, excuse me, a good question, I think, for Tricia. What are the benefits of creating an account in CareerOneStop?
Yeah, thanks, Don. That's a good question. So creating an account gives you the ability to save any content pages or search results or assessment results or a detailed page to go back to again. So that's always helpful. It also lets you share information with someone else. So if you saved, again, like your assessment results and you wanted to share it with a counselor you were working with, you could do that from your account. Also on the screen Julie had up during the presentation, when you click on different content areas you're interested or some things that describe maybe what your background is, like if you're a veteran or you've been involved in the justice system, the account will suggest different resources and places within CareerOneStop that might be of interest. So it gives you a little personal recommendations. Also, when you put a career of interest in the location in your profile, those the CareerOneStop will remember that. So when you go out and search the job finder, for example, it'll bring that search up for you right away. You can always make changes and change your search criteria, but it's just kind of an easier, quicker way to navigate the site. So this is really our phase one of user accounts, and we're already thinking of additional things that we could add to the accounts to make it more user-friendly. We've done some user research, we've done some focus groups. But if anyone has any ideas or you think there are specific ways a user account could benefit you, we would love you to use that contact information, either that's up on the screen or the info@careeronestop.org, to let us know what would be of interest to you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tricia. There are a few questions, I guess, around the interest assessment that Julie was that she very kindly answered already in the Q&A section. So I'm just scrolling through here to see. Yeah, Julie, you were very active in answering questions. All right,
We had so many terrific questions. We had a lot. And so, yeah, very much appreciate you getting those in. We just had a question that I responded to about whether the ONET interest profiler is similar to the CareerOneStop interest assessment. And the answer is yes, those are based on the same resource. The interest profiler is longer. And ONET actually culled down their assessment to a 30-item tool for us because our user research indicated people really wanted a shorter assessment. And so it is the same tool. The resources are, or the results should be quite consistent across either one. So if you take it there on ONET or you take it on CareerOneStop, you should get the same result.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. We have a question here, I guess, in general, will this webinar be available after the live session is over? The answer is yes, it will be available on Workforce GPS, and you will be able to see the entire thing, whole 90 minutes. Samantha, please correct me if I'm wrong. I think it takes 2 or 3 days for the webinar to be reposted onto Workforce GPS.
That's correct.
All right. A question here on the PowerPoint slides. Those PowerPoint slides will also be shared once the live webinar is reposted on Workforce GPS. Here's an interesting question. I think this is more for Julie. Is there a recommended sequence to using the Get My Future tools?
I think that's, somewhat personal taste, but interest is the assessment that I would use almost always first. Almost always, not absolutely, but it really relates. It's how interested are you in these different activities? It's a great way to open the conversation. It's something that everybody can relate to. I like doing this, I don't. And then it gives you a way to start building language and vocabulary around occupations. I can see myself doing these kinds of things. I can't see myself doing these kinds of things. So I would pretty much always start with interests, especially with youth and young adults. I think the work values matcher is really important for people who have a sense of mission, purpose, who have that drive to, I really want this in my career and life. So that can be a very potent resource for those folks, but everybody relates to the interests.
Okay. Thank you, Julie. And Julie, I think I'm going to bring up another one on the interest assessment. Can the interest assessment wage presentation be localized to the state or even to the zip code?
So the information on the interest assessment results is for occupations. So it's just general, like, nurse practitioner, manufacturing technologist or whatever. It's about that particular occupation. So it isn't specific to a location. But when you go out to the occupation profile, let's say you want to learn about being a nurse practitioner. So you select that career from your interest assessment results. Then you go out to the occupation profile, and there you can select a location. And then you can learn how do nurse practitioners do in Texas, in my location? How's the outlook? How are the wages? So that information will be specific to your location on the profile.
All right. Thank you, Julie. I think, Tricia, this question here might be a little bit more suited for you. Is there a way for an educator to have a cohort of learners use the site and the educators see all the results. The questionnaire has a system now that allows schools to sign up and view similar results, or does each learner have to create an account and email the information to their educator?
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, we do not have a system in place right now that an educator could see multiple accounts. But that's definitely something I could bring back to the team as a suggestion. I can see where that would be helpful. Right now, right, like if a learner saved their interest results in their user account, they would have to share that back to you. Or if they didn't have an account, you didn't want to have them create individual accounts on their results page, there's always that envelope icon at the top of the results that you could share it right from there. So they wouldn't have to have an account to do that sharing back to you.
Okay. And Tricia, I'm going to stay with you for the next question. How often do videos and information rotate or be update or are updated on the website, especially from the education side?
Yeah, so the last couple of years, and actually, Julie, do you want to answer this one? Julie's on the video team.
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Okay, oh, sorry, which one was that? Oh, how often are the videos and information updated?
Yes.
I think, down in our footer is the data sources link. That's where you can find out for all of the data on the site, how often those things are updated. The career videos specifically, those we made them in-house. We have done updates as ONET publishes their new data about emerging occupations and changes to occupations. So we do make those adjustments. All of the videos were made within the last 7-ish years. And then we continue to update as changing occupations emerge.
Right. Thank you, Julie. I'm not sure if this goes to Tricia or Julie, but where do we get the training information from?
Yeah, right now training information comes from the U.S. Department of Education. So it's the iPads, integrated system for post-secondary education, I think. I don't have it right in front of me, but so it is the U.S. Department of Education source. And like Julie mentioned, Department of Labor is where we'll get all the WIOA eligible training providers and data in the next couple months. So those national sources is where we get our information.
Okay. Second question. Actually, it's a little bit of praise. Thank you for the good information. If you wanted, are we available to speak to other groups or provide this webinar to a particular specific group? I think Florida Article Team or Artsy Team. The answer to that is yes. You could contact CareerOneStop or Tricia and Julie directly, and we could try to set something up where we could deliver a webinar directly to a team within your state that could be more focused to your needs. Next question, how do we make sure our training shows up on this list? If your training does not show up on this list and you think it should, again, contact Tricia, Julie, or on the CareerOneStop website at the bottom, info@careeronestop.org, to email us with that information, and we can see about updating it. Somebody is very excited they could find WIO related information on CareerOneStop. Thank you for your enthusiasm. How can a nonprofit get information on the program list? Again, contact CareerOneStop and we can see if it meets our criteria for inclusion. I think, Maisha, this next question is for you. What about special money for foster youth and former foster youth?
Special money, well, we we can talk about that offline, but as there is, and within WIOA, there's no special money for foster youth or youth that have excuse me, age out of foster care. We do consider young adults that are in foster care and or who are age out of foster care, have been formerly in foster care, to be one of our primary um, folks that are special population that we want to elevate and make sure they get the most support. So with WIOA, there are criteria and eligibility criteria for each young adult that comes in, but young people who are currently in foster care or have graduated out of foster care is elevated. We serve all of them. It doesn't matter if if they have a family that's taking care of them, we still consider them to be at risk, and I hate using that word, but they're an at-risk population or disadvantaged, marginalized community. So there's no additional funding for foster care, but we do have connections to our colleagues at HHS, the Administration for Children and Families, as well as our colleagues at HUD that provide housing. And we do work in conjunction with them to make sure that our young adults that are foster care or aged out get additional services if needed. But I can definitely, I'm going to share in the chat with you all our eligibility requirements for WIOA for youth, and I'm going to get that in the chat right now, and you can look that over, and if you have any additional questions, reach out to me.
Okay, thank you, Maisha. Next couple of questions.
I
Go
just
ahead.
want to note, there's a couple of resources that we mentioned. They're not available in every state, but I did post them in the chat about special money for foster youth and former foster youth. But it is, as Maisha said, this is just available only in some states. So it's not available to absolutely everyone.
Okay. Thank you both. Questions around the scholarship information. Anybody can use it. I think that presenters, I think it was Julie, made the point to make sure you read the scholarship to see if you qualify for it. We don't delineate it by college, university, public university, private university. We provide you the list of scholarships that has been vetted, and then it's up to the user to determine if that scholarship applies to their particular situation. Next question, is this a free tool? Yeah, everything on CareerOneStop is free. We don't take commercial endorsements, anything like that. It's frankly your tax dollars at work. So there's no cost even to create an account or log in for a user. There is no cost. Real quick question, which tab on top is the scholarship finder found?
Yeah, so the best way on the tab at the top of the Get My Future website would be the toolkit. That would drop down to all the tools that we looked at today.
Okay, so on the main page of CareerOneStop, you click on Toolkit and you could find scholarship, or you could go to the really cute little chatbot icon on the right-hand side, type in scholarship, and it will point you in the right direction. Okay, we've got 5 minutes. Trisha, this one's for you. Question is, are there two different CareerOneStop websites? Is it CareerOneStop and CareerOneStop Get My Future? Is there a way to navigate to get My Future page from another page?
Yeah, so it's not that there's two separate CareerOneStop sites. I think the best way to think about it might be CareerOneStop is the comprehensive site that has information specific to anyone and everyone. But Get My Future was created to kind of filter down for a specific audience, the youth and young adult audience. So we wanted to do some simplification based on the user research we did. We wanted to change the imagery. We wanted to really focus on the things we were thought were most important to that audience. So it's almost like kind of a little separate audience portal off of CareerOneStop. And in the footer of all of our CareerOneStop pages, yes, you can move back and forth. So CareerOneStop is listed on the Get My Future page in the footer, and then Get My Future is listed in the CareerOneStop footer. And also when we were looking at the CareerOneStop homepage, we got to Get My Future under the resources for. So there's that section on Career One Stop that has these kind of microsites that we have for specific audiences. So you can always get there from there as well.
Okay, we've got time for a couple more questions and then one last poll before we get shut out here. I guess I'm going to either Julie or Tricia. This person has a nonprofit for pre-apprenticeship related to construction. Does Career One Stop post information for prepay or paid pre-apprenticeship information on the site?
No, we do not. So we defer to apprenticeship.gov to be the authority in the apprenticeship sponsors and opportunities there. So it might be worth reaching out to them to see what is possible.
All right, thank you. Next question is about entrepreneurship. This person starting a youth entrepreneur program. Does our site, Career One Stop, have anything to help youth who want to be entrepreneurs?
Julie, do we have content?
We don't have significant content on that option. I think it's a great idea. We have a page called Work for Yourself, and it just gives some ideas for self-employment types of things that youth or young adults might do, and some instructions from the Small Business Administration about how to begin. But I think, yeah, the Small Business Administration is such a great source, but I can post that page in the chat so that you can see what is available.
Okay, we've got less than a minute, so one last question about resumes, and then we'll go to the poll question. I'm going to put the two questions together. Are there templates for resumes for youth? And are there more detailed resume sections found on Career One Stop?
So no templates in our resume section, just a sample in English and Spanish on the Get My Future site. But yes, there's additional samples on the Career One Stop site for sure.
All right, thank you. All right, we're done. And I'm sorry, there's still more questions, but we are out of time. So Samantha, if you would like to launch the last poll. And folks, thank you for sticking around. We had close to 1,300 participants in today's chat or in today's webinar, and most everybody stuck around to the very end. So thank you very much and enjoy your day. Samantha, back over to you.
Yes, and thank you for joining us today. Before we exit today's webinar, please complete the final webinar feedback poll on your screen. This will provide today's presenters with immediate feedback. In 5 business days, the webinar video and transcripts will be available on the Workforce GPS events page. Thank you once again for joining us today, and please have a wonderful day.